ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today.
In other news, Wednesday marks Aliyah Day, a day that celebrates the contributions of new and old immigrants to the Jewish state. And so joining us now are two Olim, Rabbi Dov Lipman, a former member of Knesset for the Yesh Atid party and the founder of Yad Le'Olim, an organization which helps immigrants navigate Israeli bureaucracy, and Lexy Grant, an Olah, or immigrant to Israel, joining us from Tel Aviv. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first of all, everyone has their own personal Aliyah story. You know, what brought them to move to Israel and, about the move itself. And so I'm interested in hearing about your stories. Rabbi Lipman, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us about your Aliyah story?
I'll never forget, it was 17 years ago that we picked up, my wife and I and 4 children, and moved to Israel. And I had to call my grandmother to break the news to her. I was so afraid. How do you tell your grandmother that you're picking up and moving thousands of miles away? My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. She was enjoying the golden years of her life. And I picked up the phone and I called her and I said, Bubby, God willing, this summer, Dina, myself, the children are moving to Israel. And my grandmother responded by saying, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehechiyanu. She said a blessing, thanking God for bringing us to this day. And that put it all into perspective for me. And I realized, wow, if my grandmother, who's going to miss us terribly, thanks God, now I understand the seriousness and the magnitude and the incredible blessing that we've been given to be able to call Israel our home. And certainly she, as a Holocaust survivor who lost most of her family in the Holocaust, had that perspective. And I want to tell you, that she ended up finding the strength, and she came and she visited me in this building, in the Knesset, in my Knesset office. And she said, Dovela, this doesn't make any sense, but we are blessed to live in the most incredible of times.
It's a great Aliyah story. And Lexy, how about you? When did you move to Israel?
I moved to Israel 10 years ago when I was 18 years old. I decided I wanted a different experience, so I went to the IDC in Herzliya. And I fell in love with the country. I couldn't leave. I tried. I went back to New York for a year, and then I realized that this is my home and I truly belong here and feel the best when I'm in Israel. So I've been here ever since.
Great. Now, Israel is an incredible country, but there is a bit of maybe a cultural shock when you move here. And there are often lots of hurdles to overcome. So I'm just curious, maybe what were some of the difficulties you faced in your move? Lexy, why don't we start with you this time?
Well, definitely the language. I'm pretty fluent now, minus my strong accent. But it's definitely a tough, dealing with the Sabras is not the easiest thing. But honestly, when I've developed thick enough skin that I feel like I can overcome anything here. And it took a few years, but I think the hardest thing was just being able to speak up for myself and how to deal with the chutzpah of Israelis. But at the end of the day, everyone here has a loving heart. Oh my God, sorry. I'm at the hospital and it's pretty loud. But everyone here has kind, giving hearts and is always willing to help. And at the end of the day, we're, a united people, and yeah.
So you mentioned you're at the hospital. What exactly do you do? Why don't you tell us what you do?
I work at Ichilov in the internal medicine unit. I'm at work right now. So I've been working for a year and a half. I was working in the Corona department, and I think that was a big, cultural difference. Not only working with Israelis, but working with Israelis in the hospital, who aren't always in the best state, and people are irritable. And, I really, it was a struggle at first, but I really take pride in what I do, and I'm helping Israelis and Jewish people. And it's really an honor to work here.
It's really important work. And Rabbi Lipman, how about you? What are some of the difficulties
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Greatest challenge without a doubt was being far away from family, moving away. And that's actually why during this last year and a half of Corona, why myself, together with my new organization, Yad Olim, why we've been trying to help reunite Olim with their families. Actually, that's how I met Lexy. Right, Lexy being separated from her family and trying to help her out. That's the greatest challenge. And that's really what I wanted to focus on. Aside from helping people with the bureaucracy, being their voice in the Knesset, even now that I'm not a member anymore, but through Yad Olim, but also to help people like Lexy who were here by themselves and enable them to be with their families, because that, for me, was definitely the greatest challenge.
So let's talk about Yad Olim for a moment. What exactly does the organization do? How does it help new immigrants and older immigrants?
So we view ourselves, you said it very well in the introduction, actually, Lidar, which is navigating Israeli bureaucracy. There are so many challenges when it comes to whether it's navigating your children in education, and health, and things along those lines. But even more importantly, having a voice within the Knesset, within the government. We're involved now in all decisions that are being made related to Olim and their families and Corona travel policies. And without having our own political party, which we don't need, everyone can vote for the parties they want, to really be able to be that source of help for Olim, both within the Knesset and the government and throughout Israeli society. And people come to our website at yadolim.org and they reach out for help in a variety of areas, especially right now, Corona travel. And thank God we've been able to help thousands of Olim, like Lexy as one example.
Great. And you know what, I'm curious actually, what is one thing that you do love most about living in Israel? We talked about the difficulties, but what are some of the highlights about living in Israel? Lexy, why don't we start with you?
I just love feeling like I'm part of something bigger than myself, and I really feel a part of the nation and the people. Again, in my everyday job, you know, helping people who built the country, I just feel a very strong connection to the religion here and the culture that's my culture. And then it doesn't hurt that I live a 2-minute walk from the beach. I just love it here. I love how when you're at the supermarket on Friday, you get a Shabbat Shalom, or how everything shuts down for major holidays. The food, I love everything about it here.
And Rabbi Lipman, how about you?
Being part of the destiny of the Jewish people. Let's face it, Jewish history is bringing the Jewish people back towards Israel at one time or another. And everyone who's here, no matter what a person is doing, you are playing a role, and you're building a Jewish state in the 21st century, something which our ancestors dreamt of and prayed for 2,000 years. And now we're blessed to be part of it. It infuses every single part of our life, whether it's a pleasant part of your day or a challenging part of your day. It infuses it with meaning and feeling like you're part of something truly special. And that's why on this Yom Aliyah, I certainly call to everyone who's watching to at least explore the possibility of making Israel your home. It's the most challenging decision to make in your life, and it's the one decision that will be the greatest decision, and in most circumstances, the decision not only you will not regret, but it'll change the future of your entire family for generations to come.
Now, Rabbi Lipman, I see that you're speaking to us from the Knesset. Can you tell us what's happening there? Why are you at the Knesset today?
So it's Yom Aliyah, as you mentioned, and there are various events that are taking place where discussions are taking place about Olim. So, for example, I was in a gathering and I expressed, as a representative of Yad Olim, the voice of Olim, who, the two issues actually. One is during Corona, young children suffered terribly from not having Ulpan, not being taught Hebrew properly because they weren't in school. So we're working very hard with the government to make sure that they increase the hours for those who made Aliyah within the last 2 years. And then also, there are critical decisions being made right now about new entry rules into Israel. And we want to make sure that Olim and their families are heard. And that in these new decisions, while on the one hand, we take care of health concerns, but on the other hand, we don't shut people out who need to be able to come and visit their families. I mean, Lexy can describe, if you have a moment, what it was like not to be with her family and what it felt like to be reunited. And that's what we're really working on here on this Yom Aliyah.
Absolutely. Lexy, do you want to jump in and tell us a little bit about your experience this past year?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank Yad Olim and Dov Lipman especially so much. I can't even express my gratitude. Dov was amazing. I mean, I hadn't seen my parents in over a year since before Corona. And being here alone, especially working in the Corona unit, was very emotionally tolling, especially, you know, being so far away. And Dov I'm forever indebted to him. I mean, he would answer my messages at all times of the day. When I would text him when I'm walking to work at 6 in the morning and I had a question, you know, he was always available, always so kind and patient and understanding. And there were times that I was probably a bit more hysterical than I should have been, but it's so stressful, especially if your parents are flying in 2 days and you still don't know if they're going to be allowed. So Dov truly is doing amazing, amazing work. And I owe so much to Yad L'Olim, and it's amazing that there are organizations that are helping people like me and so many other Olim who are alone here and a lot of times at different disadvantages, you know, not knowing the language or just there's so many barriers, and so important that we have Yad L'Olim as an organization.
Absolutely. All right, Rabbi Dov Lipman Lexy Grant, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today and share your stories.
Thank you. Happy Yom Aliyah to everyone.
Happy Yom Aliyah.